The sound of a crying baby cuts through the recycled air of a first-class cabin like a siren. No amount of money can silence it. No power can command it to stop. And on Flight 2187 from New York to Los Angeles, a desperate father was about to learn that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. What began as an ordinary cross-country flight would become an extraordinary journey of connection, where invisible barriers between wealth and modesty, power and wisdom, would dissolve at 35,000 feet. This is a story about how a single act of kindness can change the trajectory of multiple lives, about how wisdom sometimes comes in the most unassuming packages, and about how in our most vulnerable moments we discover what truly matters. Sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. This journey might just restore your faith in humanity. Nathaniel Brooks adjusted his Patek Philippe watch and frowned at the notification lighting up his phone. His executive assistant had just informed him that the company jet was grounded for unexpected maintenance on today of all days. With a resigned sigh, he booked a first-class ticket on the next commercial flight to Los Angeles. The Brooks Systems quarterly board meeting wouldn't wait, even for its CEO. "Sir, I'm afraid there's one more complication." His assistant's voice sounded tentative over the phone. "Ms. Reynolds just called in sick. She won't be able to watch Ella today." Nathaniel's grip tightened on his phone. "What about the backup sitter?" "On vacation, sir. I've called 3 agencies, but no one is available on such short notice." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Since his wife Margot had left for her charity gala in Los Angeles 3 days early, he had been juggling conference calls and diaper changes with the help of their regular nanny. Now he was staring down a 6-hour flight with a 6-month-old, alone. "Fine," he said finally. "Book another seat for Ella. First class, obviously." As he packed his daughter's essentials into a designer diaper bag, Nathaniel felt a familiar weight settle on his shoulders. At 42, he had mastered boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, but fatherhood remained uncharted territory. Ella was an unexpected gift, one that arrived just as his marriage to Margot had begun showing signs of strain. He loved his daughter fiercely, but remained convinced that there were others better equipped to handle her daily needs. Across the city, in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, 17-year-old Isaiah Carter carefully arranged the magnetic chess pieces on his travel board. His fingers moved with practiced precision, the same precision that had earned him a spot at the National Chess Championship in Washington, D.C. "You've got everything?" His mother Patricia appeared in the doorway, still wearing her nurse's scrubs from the night shift. Dark circles framed her eyes, but her smile remained unwavering. "Yes, Mom. Triple-checked." Isaiah zipped his worn backpack closed. "I still think this is too much. The bus would have been fine." Patricia shook her head firmly. "This is your moment, Isaiah. You've earned it. The plane ticket is faster, and you need to be rested for the tournament." From across the small living room, 10-year-old Kayla grinned. "Plus, you won't have to listen to me practicing violin for 6 hours. Isaiah laughed and ruffled his sister's hair. "That's definitely a bonus." The truth was the plane ticket had cost almost a week's salary, but Patricia had insisted. Her son's chess scholarship could be his ticket to college, something she had never been able to afford for herself. Since losing her husband 5 years ago, she had worked double shifts as a nurse technician, determined to give her children opportunities she never had. "Remember, when you get nervous before a match," Patricia began, "breathe from my diaphragm and visualize the board," Isaiah finished. "I know, Mom." The taxi horn honked outside, and the small family moved as one toward the door. Kayla handed Isaiah his lucky chess piece, a knight carved from rosewood that had belonged to his father. "You're going to win," she said with absolute certainty. Isaiah tucked the piece into his pocket. "I'll try my best." At JFK Airport, Nathaniel breezed through the priority security line, Ella strapped securely to his chest in an ergonomic carrier. Fellow passengers smiled at the striking image they presented, the impeccably dressed businessman with the cooing baby, unaware of the anxiety churning beneath his composed exterior. Meanwhile, Isaiah navigated the regular security line, removing his shoes and placing his backpack on the conveyor belt. The process felt foreign and slightly intimidating. This was only his second time flying. His first had been a short trip to Chicago for a regional chess tournament last year. As Nathaniel settled into his spacious first-class seat, he arranged Ella's necessities within easy reach. The flight attendant cooed over the baby, offering extra pillows and a warm blanket. "She's absolutely precious," the attendant said. "Will you be needing a bassinet for the flight?" "That would be helpful, thank you," Nathaniel replied, professionally courteous as always. Several rows behind the first-class curtain, Isaiah found his seat in economy. He squeezed past the passenger in the aisle seat and settled by the window, immediately captivated by the view of planes taxiing across the tarmac. Pulling out his chessboard, he began setting up a puzzle from his coach's latest email. The confined space made it awkward, but Isaiah was used to making do. As the boarding process continued, two distinct worlds prepared for the same journey, separated by just a thin curtain and worlds of experience. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing their departure. Flight attendants performed their safety demonstration, and the engines roared to life. Isaiah tucked away his chessboard and gazed out the window, mentally reviewing openings and counter-strategies. Nathaniel checked his email one last time before airplane mode, while Ella dozed peacefully against his chest. As the plane ascended into the clouds, neither Isaiah nor Nathaniel could have anticipated how their paths would cross, or how profoundly that crossing would change them both. The first hour of the flight passed without incident. Nathaniel reviewed quarterly reports on his tablet, while Ella slept. Isaiah alternated between studying chess strategies and watching the landscape transform beneath them, marveling at how quickly cities gave way to patchwork farmland, and then to the rippling texture of mountain ranges. Then, as the flight attendants began their first beverage service, Ella stirred. Her small face scrunched, her mouth opened, and a cry erupted that seemed impossibly loud for such a tiny being. And that was just the beginning. By the 2-hour mark, Nathaniel Brooks had exhausted every trick in his limited parental arsenal. He had checked Ella's diaper, offered her a bottle, tried burping her, bounced her gently, and even attempted to distract her with the platinum rattle that had been a gift from his board of directors. Nothing worked. Ella's cries only intensified, echoing through the first-class cabin and filtering beyond the curtain into economy. "Is there anything I can help with, sir?" A flight attendant approached with a sympathetic smile that couldn't quite mask her concern. Other passengers were beginning to shift uncomfortably in their seats, casting pointed glances in his direction. "She's never been like this," Nathaniel explained, trying to keep his voice steady as sweat beaded along his hairline. "She might be feeling the pressure in her ears, but I don't know how to help her." The flight attendant suggested a warm towel for Ella's ears and promised to return with one promptly. Nathaniel nodded gratefully, though he doubted it would make a difference. Something was wrong with his daughter, and for all his wealth and influence, he couldn't fix it. 3 rows behind him, an older gentleman in an expensive suit cleared his throat loudly. "Some of us paid good money for a peaceful flight," he muttered, just loud enough to be heard. Nathaniel felt a flash of anger, quickly replaced by embarrassment. This wasn't the boardroom where his word was final. Here he was just a father failing publicly. In economy class, Isaiah Carter had been trying to focus on a particularly challenging chess problem, but Ella's persistent cries made concentration impossible. He noticed how other passengers were reacting, with irritation, with judgment, with eye rolls, but all he could think about was Kayla at that age, and how sometimes she would cry for hours with colic. He remembered the techniques his mother had taught him, how to hold Kayla, the specific gentle pressure points on her back, the particular swaying motion that seemed to calm her. Memories of singing to his sister in their small Brooklyn apartment flooded back, along with his mother's words. "Sometimes babies just need a different energy. They feel our stress," as Ella's cries intensified. Isaiah could hear the desperation in them. This wasn't ordinary fussiness, it was distress. And somewhere beyond the first-class curtain was a parent probably feeling just as distressed. The flight attendant returned to Nathaniel with a warm, damp towel. "Perhaps try this on her ears, sir," she suggested. "And if there's anything else—" "I'll pay," Nathaniel interrupted, his voice cracking slightly. Nearby passengers turned to look. "I'll pay anyone on this plane who can make her stop crying." The flight attendant's professional smile faltered. "Sir, I'm sure it's just the altitude. Perhaps if you—" But Nathaniel wasn't listening. He was looking past her, to where the curtain separating first class from economy had parted slightly. A young man in a worn hoodie stood there, hesitating at the threshold between worlds. Isaiah hadn't planned to get up. He had told himself it wasn't his place to intrude, but when he heard the father's desperate offer and the genuine fear beneath it, Something compelled him to move. He had slipped past the curtain before he could second-guess himself. Now, standing in the first-class aisle, Isaiah was acutely aware of how out of place he looked. His hoodie was frayed at the cuffs. His jeans had seen better days, and his sneakers were practical rather than fashionable. The wealthy passengers regarded him with suspicion, as if he were a trespasser. The flight attendant turned, surprise evident on her face. "Sir, I'm afraid you need to return to your designated cabin." But Nathaniel, clutching his wailing daughter, looked up at Isaiah with something between confusion and desperate hope. "Do you know something about babies?" he asked, his voice barely audible over Ella's cries. Isaiah swallowed hard. "My sister had colic when she was little. My mum's a nurse, and she taught me some techniques." He hesitated. "I could try if you want." For a moment, Nathaniel simply stared at the teenager. Then Ella let out another, heart-wrenching wail, and the decision made itself. "Please," he said, extending his arms to offer his precious daughter to a complete stranger. The first-class cabin fell silent as Isaiah carefully took Ella from Nathaniel's arms. The baby's face was flushed crimson, her tiny fists clenched in distress. Isaiah cradled her with practiced ease, one hand supporting her head, while the other gently pressed against her back. "Hey there, little one," he murmured, his voice soft and melodic. "That's a lot of big feelings for such a small person." Ella's cries continued, but Isaiah remained unruffled. He began a gentle swaying motion, almost imperceptible to onlookers. His right hand moved in small circular patterns along her spine, while he hummed a low, soothing tune. Nathaniel watched, transfixed, as this teenager handled his daughter with a confidence he'd never managed to find. The other passengers and even the flight attendant seemed similarly captivated by the scene unfolding before them. "She might have some trapped air," Isaiah explained quietly, never breaking his rhythm. "Sometimes the pressure changes can make it worse." He shifted Ella slightly, positioning her so her head rested in the crook of his elbow, while his hand supported her belly. With gentle, deliberate movements, he applied the slightest pressure to specific points on her abdomen. The effect wasn't immediate, but within minutes, Ella's piercing wails began to soften. Her rigid body gradually relaxed against Isaiah's chest. The teenager continued his methodical movements, murmuring reassurances that seemed to be working magic. "Where did you learn to do that?" Nathaniel asked, his voice tinged with awe and a hint of something else. Perhaps embarrassment that a stranger could soothe his daughter when he couldn't. "My mom," Isaiah replied simply. "She works long shifts at the hospital. When my sister was little, I had to help a lot." As Ella's cries diminished to occasional whimpers, the tension in the cabin visibly dissipated. The businessman who had complained earlier now looked on with grudging respect. The flight attendant smiled warmly at Isaiah. "You're a natural," she said. Isaiah shrugged, still focused on Ella. "She just needed someone calm. Babies can sense when we're stressed." This observation landed like a gentle rebuke, though none was intended. Nathaniel felt his cheeks warm. Of course, his anxiety had been feeding Ella's distress, a feedback loop he hadn't recognized. "I can take her back now," Nathaniel offered, reaching out tentatively. "Maybe in a few minutes," Isaiah suggested. "She's just settling down. Sudden changes might upset her again." Nathaniel withdrew his hands, nodding. "Of course, whatever you think is best." There was an awkward pause as both seemed to realize the strangeness of their situation. A powerful CEO deferring to a teenager's judgment about his own child. "I'm Nathaniel Brooks," he said finally, extending his hand. "Isaiah Carter." The teenager adjusted Ella carefully to free one hand for a brief handshake. "Please sit down." Nathaniel gestured to the empty first-class seat beside him. "Unless you need to get back to economy?" "No rush," Isaiah smiled slightly. "It's a lot quieter up here." As Isaiah settled into the plush seat, still cradling Ella, Nathaniel noticed details he'd missed before. The teenager's worn backpack had a chess club logo embroidered on the front pocket. His sneakers, though well-maintained, showed signs of extensive use. The hoodie he wore was clean, but had been mended at one elbow, a careful, nearly invisible repair that spoke of pride despite limited means. "You mentioned your mother works at a hospital," Nathaniel asked, trying to make conversation. "Yeah, she's a nurse tech at Brooklyn Methodist, works double shifts most days." "And your father?" Something flickered in Isaiah's eyes. "He passed away 5 years ago. Car accident." I'm sorry, Nathaniel said, meaning it. Isaiah nodded acknowledgement, then glanced down at Ella, who had finally drifted into peaceful sleep. She's beautiful, he said. How old? 6 months next week, Nathaniel replied, his voice softening. Her mother is already in Los Angeles for a charity event. I was supposed to join her with the baby, but our nanny got sick at the last minute. I've never handled her alone for this long before. The admission hung in the air between them. Isaiah didn't judge, but Nathaniel suddenly heard how his words sounded. A father confessing he rarely spent time alone with his own child. It can be overwhelming, Isaiah offered diplomatically, especially when they're upset and you can't figure out why. Nathaniel nodded gratefully. Exactly. At home, there's always someone to step in when I'm not sure what to do. My mom says that's how most parents feel at first, Isaiah said. She tells new parents at the hospital that babies don't come with instruction manuals. You just learn as you go. Your mother sounds wise. She is. Pride colored Isaiah's voice. The flight attendant approached with a warm smile. Can I get either of you something to drink? Or perhaps a snack? Water. Would be great, thank you, Isaiah replied. Make that 2 waters, Nathaniel added, and whatever meal option is available for my young friend here. He turned to Isaiah. I assume you haven't eaten. Isaiah hesitated. I brought a sandwich. Consider this a thank you for rescuing us all from what was becoming a very long flight. Nathaniel's tone was light, but sincere. As the flight attendant departed to prepare their refreshments, Nathaniel noticed Ella stirring slightly. Should I take her now? Let's try, Isaiah said. Just make sure to support her the same way I was. Keep the pressure on her back. With careful movements, he transferred the sleeping baby to her father's arms. Nathaniel tensed, expecting Ella to wake and resume crying, but she merely sighed and nestled against his chest. See? You've got it, Isaiah encouraged. For the first time in hours, Nathaniel felt the knot in his chest loosen. He gazed down at his daughter's peaceful face and experienced a surge of something powerful. Connection, perhaps, or simply relief. You're headed to Los Angeles too, he asked, keeping his voice low. Isaiah shook his head. Washington, D.C., actually. I've got a chess tournament, national championship. Chess? Nathaniel's interest was genuine. I used to play in college, never very good, but I enjoyed the strategy. It's more than strategy, Isaiah said, his eyes lighting up. It's psychology, pattern recognition, memory, planning. You have to think 10 moves ahead while staying completely present. Nathaniel recognized the passion in the teenagers. The voice. It was how he sounded when discussing business innovation or market disruption. You must be very good to reach the national level. Isaiah shrugged modestly. Good enough for a shot at the scholarship they're offering. That's what really matters. The meal arrived, a gourmet offering that made Isaiah's packed sandwich seem laughably inadequate by comparison. The teenager's eyes widened, slightly at the presentation. Seared salmon with a lemon dill sauce, roasted vegetables arranged artfully on the side, and a chocolate mousse for dessert. All served on actual porcelain with metal cutlery, luxuries unheard of in economy class. This is wow, Isaiah said, momentarily at a loss for words. Nathaniel smiled, amused by the reaction. One of the few perks of spending most of your life on planes. As Isaiah savored each bite, Nathaniel kept Ella cradled against him, unwilling to disturb her peaceful slumber. The CEO found himself studying the young man, curious about the life that had produced such self-possession in someone so young. So this chess scholarship, Nathaniel began conversationally. Where would you go if you win? Columbia, hopefully, Isaiah replied. They have a strong computer science program. Ambitious. Necessary, Isaiah corrected gently. Full rides don't come easy, and we can't afford tuition otherwise. Nathaniel nodded, understanding the subtext. And if chess doesn't provide the scholarship? Isaiah's expression remained determinedly optimistic. There are other scholarships, academic ones mainly. I've got good grades, and my mom put aside a little each month since I was born, but he trailed off, not needing to explain that it wouldn't be nearly enough. I'm the CEO of Brooks Systems, Nathaniel said, the statement emerging more abruptly than he'd intended. We have a foundation that supports promising students in STEM fields. Isaiah paused mid-bite, his expression suddenly guarded. That's good to know. Nathaniel recognized the pride in the teenager's reaction. It's not charity, he clarified. It's investment. Companies like mine need minds like yours. Before Isaiah could respond, Ella stirred and began to fuss. The sound was softer than before, but threatened to escalate. May I? Isaiah set down his fork and extended his hands. Nathaniel passed Ella over without hesitation. Isaiah immediately resumed. The gentle pressure points that had worked earlier, adding a soft humming that seemed to resonate with the baby. Within moments, she settled again. You have a gift, Nathaniel observed. Just practice, Isaiah countered. And maybe babies just like me because I don't overthink it. They're pretty simple, really. They need comfort, food, and to feel secure. The simplicity of this assessment made Nathaniel's smile ruefully. I tend to complicate things. In business, that's often an advantage, seeing all angles, anticipating problems. With Ella, he shook his head. I'm afraid of making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, Isaiah said. My mom says that's how we learn. Nathaniel found himself envying the wisdom in the teenager's perspective. Your mother has taught you well. Isaiah nodded, then hesitated before asking, What about your wife? Is she good with Ella? Margot? Nathaniel considered the question. She loves Ella deeply, but she's similar to me, accomplished in her professional life, less confident in parenthood. We rely heavily on our nanny. My mom worked all the time too, Isaiah said without judgment, but she always made sure we knew we mattered more than the job. The observation landed with unexpected weight. Nathaniel found himself wondering if Ella would say the same about him someday. Would she feel that she mattered more than Brooks Systems' quarterly results or market share? How do you manage chess tournaments with your responsibilities at home? Nathaniel asked, genuinely curious. It's tough sometimes, Isaiah admitted. My sister, Kayla, is 10 now, so she's more independent, but I still help with her homework, make dinner when Mom works late, that kind of thing. And you find time for chess on top of all that? Isaiah shrugged. You make time for what matters. Chess could be my way out and up, a chance to build something better for all of us. The wisdom in those words struck Nathaniel. Here was a teenager carrying adult responsibilities, yet still pursuing excellence, still finding joy in his passion. Meanwhile, Nathaniel had every advantage imaginable and struggled to balance his life with any grace. What about you? Isaiah asked unexpectedly. What do you make time for besides work? The question caught Nathaniel off guard. His instinct was to mention charity boards or investment committees, but he realized those were still work-adjacent activities. What did he truly make time for that brought him joy? I used to sail, he said finally. Small boats, nothing fancy, just me against the wind and water. I haven't done it in years. Why not? Time, I suppose. Priorities. Nathaniel looked down at Ella, now sleeping peacefully in Isaiah's arms. Although I'm beginning to wonder if I've been prioritizing the wrong things. The flight attendant approached to clear their meal trays. We'll be beginning our descent into DC in about 20 minutes, she informed them. You'll need to return to your seat in economy for landing, she added to Isaiah. The teenager nodded, carefully transferring Ella back to her father. This time Nathaniel received his daughter with more confidence, mirroring the hold that Isaiah had demonstrated. Thank you, Nathaniel said, the words insufficient for what he felt. You've been remarkable, Isaiah smiled. She's the remarkable one. Babies are resilient. They forgive our mistakes. He gathered his backpack. Good luck in Los Angeles. I think you'll be fine. As Isaiah turned to leave, Nathaniel found himself reluctant to end their conversation. Isaiah, he called. The teenager paused. What if you continued on to Los Angeles with us? After your tournament in DC, I mean. I could arrange everything. Flights, accommodations. You could meet some of our engineers. See our development labs. It might help with college applications. Isaiah looked surprised. That's really generous, but I can't just think about it, Nathaniel pressed. Here's my card. It has my personal number. Let me know how the tournament goes. Isaiah accepted the embossed business card, studying it for a moment before carefully tucking it into his backpack. I will. Thank you. As Isaiah disappeared behind the curtain to economy class, Nathaniel looked down at his sleeping daughter. I think we just met someone special, Ella, he whispered. Someone with a lot to teach us both. The descent into Washington, D.C. filled Isaiah with nervous anticipation. Through the small oval window, he watched the capital city materialize beneath them, the Washington Monument standing tall against the horizon, the sprawling National Mall, and the distinctive dome of the Capitol building. Somewhere down there his future awaited, embodied in a chess tournament that could change everything. As passengers prepared for landing, Isaiah found himself reflecting on his unexpected encounter in first class. The business card in his pocket felt weighty with possibility. Nathaniel Brooks, CEO of Brooks Systems, a man whose name regularly appeared in business publications and whose wealth was almost incomprehensible, had invited him to Los Angeles. The offer seemed surreal, like something from a movie rather than his actual life. When the plane touched down at Reagan National Airport, Isaiah gathered his belongings and joined the slow procession toward the exit. As he passed the first-class section, he caught Nathaniel's eye. The CEO nodded respectfully, Ella now peacefully asleep in his arms. No words were exchanged, but something had undeniably shifted between them, a connection forged through an unexpected moment of need. "Good luck," Nathaniel mouthed silently. Isaiah smiled and nodded his thanks before continuing down the aisle. Outside the airport, Washington's summer heat hit him like a wall. He navigated to the metro station, consulting the directions his chess coach had emailed him. The tournament was being held at the Marriott Marquise, where participants were also housed. Isaiah had never stayed in a hotel so grand, and the thought both excited and intimidated him. Upon arrival, the hotel's soaring atrium took his breath away. A vast, open space, with a dramatic sculpture suspended from the ceiling and marble floors that gleamed under carefully positioned lighting. Well-dressed guests moved purposefully through the lobby, their confident demeanors suggesting they belonged in such luxury. Isaiah adjusted his backpack strap and approached the reception desk, feeling decidedly out of place. "I'm here for the National Chess Championship," he explained to the receptionist. Isaiah Carter. The woman's professional demeanor warmed slightly as she located his name. "Ah, yes, Mr. Carter. You're in room 742. The tournament welcome. Reception begins at 6 in the Magnolia Ballroom." She handed him a key card and a welcome packet. "The elevators are to your right. Enjoy your stay." His room was modest by the hotel's standards, but luxurious compared to anything Isaiah had experienced before. 2 queen beds with crisp white linens, a flat-screen television, a mini fridge, and a bathroom with marble countertops. He set his backpack on the luggage rack and immediately called home. "Mom, I made it," he said when Patricia answered. "How was the flight?" His mother's voice carried the slight edge of someone who had been anxiously waiting for news. Isaiah hesitated, considering whether to mention his encounter with Nathaniel Brooks. "Interesting, actually. I'll tell you all about it later. How's Kayla?" "Practicing her violin. Non-stop. The neighbors are being very patient." Patricia chuckled. "The hotel is good? You have everything you need?" "It's amazing, Mom. Way nicer than we expected." "You deserve it." Her voice softened. "Your first match is tomorrow morning, right?" "Yeah, 9 o'clock. I should probably review some strategies tonight." "Don't stay up too late. A clear mind is better than last minute." Cramming. After promising to call again after his first match, Isaiah hung up and unpacked his few belongings. He arranged his chessboard on the desk and began reviewing the opening sequences his coach had recommended for his first opponent, a 16-year-old prodigy from Chicago known for aggressive play. The welcome reception that evening was a blend of nervous energy and strategic socializing. Teenage chess champions from across the country gathered in small clusters, sizing up the competition while pretending not to. Coaches exchanged pleasantries that barely masked their competitive spirit. Tournament officials circulated with clipboards, confirming details and answering questions. Isaiah stood near a table of refreshments, observing rather than participating. He recognized several faces from chess publications and online tournaments, kids whose reputations preceded them in the chess world. Some had been playing in international competitions since elementary school. Others had personal coaches funded by parents who believed in their prodigious talents. Isaiah had neither advantage, just raw ability, public library books on strategy, and a community chess club that met in a church basement. "You're Isaiah Carter, right? From New York?" Isaiah turned to find a girl about his age, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and intelligent eyes that studied him with open curiosity. "That's me," he confirmed. "And you're Mia Patel, Connecticut." She extended her hand. "I saw your match against Rodriguez last year. Your queen sacrifice in the mid-game was brilliant." Isaiah shook her hand, surprised by the recognition. Thanks, I didn't think anyone was paying attention to that tournament. Oh, people notice good chess wherever it happens, Mia said with a smile. Are you ready for tomorrow? As ready as I can be, Isaiah replied honestly. You? Terrified but pretending not to be, she admitted. Standard procedure. Their conversation was interrupted by the tournament director tapping a microphone. A hush fell over the room as he welcomed them all to Washington and outlined the tournament structure, 6 rounds over 3 days, with the top 4 players advancing to the semifinals. The winner would receive a $50,000 scholarship and automatic qualification for the International Youth Championship in London later that year. As Isaiah listened to the stakes being laid out, his heart raced. This wasn't just about chess anymore, it was about his future, his family's future. The pressure settled on his shoulders like a physical weight. Later that night, lying awake in the unfamiliar hotel bed, Isaiah found his thoughts drifting between the tournament ahead and the strange encounter on the plane. He pulled out Nathaniel Brooks's business card and studied it under the soft glow of the bedside lamp. The embossed logo caught the light, a stylized B that represented one of the most successful tech companies in America. Isaiah carefully placed the card on the nightstand and closed his eyes, trying to quiet his mind. But sleep remained elusive as possibilities, both on and off the chessboard, competed for his attention. Nathaniel Brooks' driver was waiting at Los Angeles International Airport when his flight landed. As the sleek black SUV navigated through the city's notorious traffic toward Bel Air, Ella slept peacefully in her car seat. The driver had thoughtfully installed it before pickup, one of countless details that Nathaniel's staff managed automatically, making his life frictionless in ways he often took for granted. Your wife called, sir, the driver informed him. She asked if you could meet her at the foundation gala tonight instead of at home. She said she'll have the nanny meet you there for Ella. Nathaniel nodded, unsurprised. What time does it start? 8 o'clock, sir, at the Beverly Wilshire. Thank you, James. Nathaniel returned his attention to his phone, scrolling through emails that had accumulated during the flight. But his focus kept drifting. Thoughts of Isaiah Carter, his calm competence, his quiet dignity despite obvious financial constraints, his easy way with Ella, kept interrupting Nathaniel's attempts at productivity. There was something about the teenager that had resonated with him, something beyond gratitude for the peaceful remainder of their flight. At home, Nathaniel settled Ella in her nursery, marveling at how she remained asleep through the transfer. The house felt cavernous and quiet, a modernist masterpiece of glass and steel perched on a hillside, with panoramic views of the city below. The housekeeper had prepared everything for their arrival, but the space still felt empty, more showcase than home. He wandered to his office, intending to prepare for the board meeting scheduled for the following morning, but found himself instead at his computer, typing National Chess Championship Washington, D.C. into the search bar. The tournament's website appeared, listing participants and schedule. Isaiah's name was there along with a small headshot, the teenager looking serious, almost stern, in what appeared to be a school photo. Nathaniel scrolled through the information, learning that the championship would conclude in 3 days, with matches live-streamed for chess enthusiasts. Without fully analyzing his own motivations, he bookmarked the page. His phone chimed with a message from Margot. Make sure to wear the Tom Ford, the champagne one, not the navy. Photographers confirmed for tonight. Such messages once felt normal to Nathaniel, part of the carefully curated public image they maintained, but today it struck him as oddly performative. When had their communications become so transactional? When had maintaining appearances become more important than genuine connection? The thought followed him through his shower, and as he dressed for the evening in the specified champagne-colored Tom Ford suit, standing before the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks, platinum with tiny sapphire insets, a gift from Margot on their 5th anniversary, Nathaniel found himself thinking about Isaiah's mended hoodie and the careful way he'd handled Ella. The gala was in full swing when Nathaniel arrived. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over Los Angeles's elite as they mingled, glasses of champagne in hand, checkbooks, metaphorically at the ready. The Margot Brooks Foundation for Children's Arts Education was Margot's passion project and, Nathaniel had to admit, a genuinely worthwhile cause, despite the social theater that surrounded its fundraising events. Margot spotted him immediately, excusing herself from a conversation with a prominent film director to greet him. At 40, she remained striking, tall, and elegant in a deep blue gown that complemented her blonde hair and blue eyes. "You made it," she said, kissing his cheek. "Where's Ella?" "With Nancy," Nathaniel replied, nodding toward the nanny who stood discreetly near the entrance with the baby. "She did wonderfully on the flight, by the way, after an initial rough patch." Margot's smile was genuine but distracted. "That's great. Listen, the Goldmans are here, and they're considering a major donation. Could you chat with David about that tech incubator project you mentioned last month? I think it might seal the deal." And just like that, they were back to business. The well-practiced dance of leveraging connections and influence for worthy causes. Nathaniel found himself moving through the evening on autopilot, discussing innovation hubs with David Goldman, comparing notes on market trends with the CEO of a streaming service, complimenting the wife of a potential donor on her philanthropic initiatives. But his mind kept returning to the cramped economy section of the plane, to Isaiah's matter-of-fact description of working around his mother's hospital shifts, to the calm way he'd handled a crisis that had left Nathaniel feeling helpless. "You seem distracted," Margot observed during a rare moment alone together, her voice low to avoid being overheard. "Board meeting prep?" Nathaniel considered how to explain his state of mind and found no easy way to articulate it. "Long flight," he said instead. "Interesting journey." Margot accepted this with a nod, her attention already shifting to the next social obligation. "The Wilsons just arrived. I need to welcome them." As she moved away, Nathaniel felt a pang of something like loneliness. Strange, considering he was surrounded by people who knew him, or at least knew his public persona. When had he last had a conversation as genuine as the one with Isaiah on the plane? Later that night, after the gala had concluded successfully and they had returned home, Nathaniel found himself standing in Ella's nursery, watching his daughter sleep. The peace on her tiny face reminded him of how she'd looked in Isaiah's arms. "You were amazing tonight," Margot said softly, appearing in the doorway in her silk robe. "The Goldmans committed to the full amount." Nathaniel nodded, still watching Ella. "Do you ever wonder if we're too removed from real life?" he asked. Suddenly, Margot looked startled by the question. "What do you mean?" "All of this," he gestured vaguely, encompassing their home, their lifestyle. "It's so insulated, controlled." "That's what success affords us," Margot replied, studying him curiously. "Control, safety, the ability to help others. Isn't that what we've worked for?" The question hung between them, reasonable yet somehow missing the point Nathaniel was struggling to articulate. "Yes," he said finally. "Of course." But as he followed his wife to their bedroom, he found himself thinking about Isaiah's tournament, wondering how the teenager's first match had gone, and realizing with some surprise that he genuinely cared about the answer. The chess clock ticked relentlessly as Isaiah studied the board, his opponent's last move having created a complex positional puzzle. The tournament hall was hushed, the only sounds being the soft click of chess pieces, the occasional cough, and the barely audible scribbling of moves on notation sheets. Isaiah's quarter-final match had drawn a small crowd of spectators, including several college scouts known to offer scholarships to promising players. After 3 days of intense competition, Isaiah had advanced through the preliminary rounds with 4 wins and 1 draw. Now facing the third-seeded player in the tournament, a methodical tactician from Seattle, he found himself in a challenging endgame where one miscalculation could cost him everything. Isaiah took a deep breath, focusing on the board rather than the stakes. The position demanded clarity, not anxiety. He visualized potential sequences, calculating variations 5, 6, 7 moves ahead. Then he saw it, an unexpected pathway to victory, requiring the sacrifice of his remaining knight to force a winning position. With steady hands, he executed the move. His opponent's eyebrows rose slightly, the only acknowledgement of surprise from the otherwise stoic player. 3 moves later, seeing the inevitable, the Seattle player tipped his king in resignation and extended his hand. "Brilliant sacrifice," he said quietly. "I didn't see it coming." Isaiah shook his hand, relief and elation washing over him. "Thanks. Good game." As they signed their score sheets and the tournament director recorded the result, Isaiah became aware of his phone vibrating in his pocket. He stepped away from the table and checked the screen. His mother had texted, "How did it go?" Isaiah quickly typed back, 1. Semi-finals tomorrow. Her response came instantly. We knew you could do it. Kayla says her lucky chess piece worked its magic. A warm feeling spread through his chest as he pocketed his phone. He had made it to the final four, farther than he or his coach had realistically expected. One more. Win would put him in the championship match, with a guaranteed minimum of a $25,000 scholarship as runner-up. As he gathered his belongings, Mia Patel approached, her own match having concluded nearby. Congratulations, she said, genuine admiration in her voice. That night's sacrifice was inspired. Thanks, Isaiah replied. How did yours go? Mia's smile was rueful. Lost to Chen. He's like a computer, no weaknesses. She shrugged philosophically. But I made it to the quarterfinals, which is better than last year. You're playing him tomorrow, by the way. Isaiah nodded, absorbing this information. William Chen was the tournament favorite, undefeated for the past 2 years and already being courted by major universities. The challenge ahead was formidable. Any advice? He asked. He thrives on complex tactical positions, Mia offered. If I were you, I'd aim for a quiet positional game. Make him work for every advantage. They walked together toward the hotel elevators, discussing chess strategy with the intensity that only fellow enthusiasts could appreciate. As they parted ways on different floors, Mia offered a final encouragement. You've got something special, Isaiah. A different way of seeing the board. Don't forget that tomorrow. In his room, Isaiah called his mother to share details of the match, carefully explaining the critical positions and how he had navigated them. Patricia listened attentively, asking questions that revealed her growing understanding of the game she had initially supported without comprehending. I'm so proud of you, she said finally. No matter what happens tomorrow. After hanging up, Isaiah noticed a notification on his phone, an email from an unknown sender. Opening it, he was surprised to find a message from Nathaniel Brooks. Isaiah, I hope the tournament is going well. Ella and I made it safely to Los Angeles. She's been much calmer since learning your techniques. I've been following the championship updates online and saw you've advanced to the semi-finals. Impressive, but not surprising. My offer still stands. Brooks Systems would be glad to host you in LA after the tournament. We have an internship program that might interest you and a foundation that supports promising STEM students. Consider it. Best of luck tomorrow. Nathaniel Brooks. Isaiah read the message twice, conflicting emotions washing over him. The offer was generous, potentially life-changing. But something about it also felt uncomfortable, like charity rather than opportunity. Would Nathaniel have noticed him at all, if not for the chance encounter with Ella? Did he want to be noticed for his ability to soothe a baby or for his mind? He set his phone aside without responding and turned to his chessboard, setting up the position from one of William Chen's recent tournament games. Tomorrow's semi-final required his full attention. The rest could wait. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Nathaniel sat in his home office, having just sent the email to Isaiah. Through the open door, he could hear Ella's delighted squeals as Margot played with her in the living room, a rare moment of undivided attention from his wife to their daughter. The board. Meeting that morning had gone well, with quarterly projections exceeding expectations and the new product line receiving unanimous approval for accelerated development. By all measures, life was proceeding exactly as planned. Yet Nathaniel felt a strange restlessness, an unexpected questioning of priorities that had begun on that flight with Isaiah and Ella. He opened his laptop and navigated to the chess tournament's livestream page. Tomorrow's semi-finals would be broadcast, and without analyzing his own unusual interest too deeply, Nathaniel found himself marking the event in his calendar. What are you working on? Margot appeared in the doorway. Ella balanced on her hip. You've been distracted since you got back. Nathaniel hesitated, then decided on honesty. On the flight here, there was a situation with Ella. She was crying inconsolably and nothing I did helped. A teenager from economy class, a chess player headed to a national tournament, came to first class and managed to calm her down. Margot's expression shifted from confusion to interest. Really, what did he do? He just knew what to do, pressure points on her back, a certain way of holding her. His mother's a nurse, apparently, and he helps with his younger sister. Nathaniel shook his head slightly, but it was more than technique. He had this calm confidence, this presence. Sounds like you found a baby whisperer, Margot said lightly, bouncing Ella. You should get his number for our next flight. Actually, I invited him to visit our LA offices after his tournament. He's interested in computer science, and I thought our internship program might be a good fit. Margot studied him with new attentiveness. That's unusually personal for you. The observation wasn't critical, merely surprised, but it made Nathaniel uncomfortably aware of how rarely he engaged with individuals outside his professional and social circles. He's exceptionally bright, the kind of talent Brooks Systems is always looking for. Of course, Margot nodded, accepting this explanation. Well, dinner will be ready in 30 minutes. I told Carmen we'd eat in the garden tonight. After she left, Nathaniel returned to his email, checking whether Isaiah had responded. The inbox remained unchanged. He wondered what the teenager was thinking, whether the offer seemed like an opportunity or an intrusion. For reasons he couldn't fully articulate, Nathaniel found himself genuinely hoping Isaiah would accept. The semi-final match against William Chen drew the tournament's largest audience. Chess enthusiasts, coaches, and college scouts filled the observation area, and the livestream viewer count climbed steadily. As the two young players took their seats opposite each other, Chen was exactly as Isaiah had expected. Methodical, precise, with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to victory. They shook hands briefly before the match, Chen's expression revealing nothing beyond polite acknowledgement. Isaiah had drawn the white pieces, giving him the first move and a slight theoretical advantage. Following Mia's advice, he opened with a quiet positional setup rather than the aggressive tactical systems he typically preferred. Chen responded with textbook precision, developing his pieces efficiently. As the middle game unfolded, Isaiah maintained his composure, carefully navigating the increasingly complex position. Chen played with machine-like accuracy, but Isaiah noticed something interesting. When faced with positions requiring intuitive judgment rather than calculation, Chen hesitated. Slightly. 40 moves in, with both players under mounting time pressure, Isaiah engineered a position that couldn't be solved by calculation alone. The resulting complications forced Chen into a series of difficult decisions where experience and intuition mattered more than computational ability. When Chen finally made a subtle positional error, Isaiah pounced, converting his small advantage into a winning endgame. The audience murmured as they realized what was happening. The tournament favorite was losing. Chen fought valiantly, stretching the game to its full technical length, but the outcome was inevitable. After 73 moves and nearly 4 hours of play, he extended his hand in resignation. Exceptional endgame technique, Chen said quietly, his composure intact despite the unexpected defeat. You deserved the win. The tournament director announced the result, confirming Isaiah's advancement to the championship final the following day. As spectators and other players congratulated him, Isaiah felt almost dizzy with the realization he had guaranteed himself at least the second-place scholarship. One more win would mean the full $50,000 and a spot in the International Youth Championship. In the relative quiet of his hotel room later, Isaiah finally had a moment to process everything. His phone had been buzzing constantly with messages from his mother and sister, his coach back in Brooklyn, friends from school, and even members of the community chess club who had helped fund his trip. Amidst all these notifications, he noticed a text from an unknown number. Watched your semi-final online. Remarkable endgame conversion. Looking forward to tomorrow's final. Nathaniel Brooks. Isaiah stared at the message, surprised that the CEO had actually watched his match. After a moment's hesitation, he replied, "Thank you for watching, still considering your offer. Need to focus on the final match first." The response came quickly. "Of course, no pressure. Just know the opportunity remains open, regardless of tomorrow's outcome." This subtle reassurance that the offer wasn't contingent on winning the championship eased something in Isaiah's mind. Perhaps Nathaniel's interest wasn't merely about collecting another achievement for Brooks Systems to showcase. The following morning, Isaiah woke early, his usual pre-match routine disrupted by a knock at his door. Outside stood a hotel staff member with a small package. "Delivery for Isaiah Carter," the young woman said, handing him a flat, rectangular box. Inside, Isaiah found a handwritten note atop tissue paper. "My father gave this to me before my first major business presentation. It brought me luck when I needed confidence. Perhaps it can do the same for you today. Nathaniel Brooks." Beneath the tissue paper lay an elegant fountain pen, clearly vintage and valuable, with subtle engravings along its length. Isaiah held it carefully, wondering at the gesture's meaning. It wasn't a chess-related gift, but something more personal, a talisman of sorts from one pivotal moment to another. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Nathaniel sat in his home office, ostensibly reviewing documents for an afternoon meeting, but actually refreshing the chess tournament's webpage repeatedly. The championship match wouldn't begin for another hour, but he found himself unable to focus on anything else. "You're watching that chess tournament again?" Margot appeared with 2 coffee cups, handing one to him. "I didn't realize you were such an enthusiast." "It's interesting," Nathaniel replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. "And Isaiah, the young man I mentioned, he's in the final." Margot leaned against his desk, studying him with curious eyes. "You know, I don't think I've ever seen you this invested in a stranger before." Nathaniel considered this observation. "He's not exactly a stranger anymore," he said finally, "and there's something about him, a quality I can't quite define. Potential, certainly, but also a kind of centered presence. The baby whisperer has made quite an impression," Margot said, her tone gently teasing but not unkind. "Will you be watching the entire match?" "I've cleared my schedule until noon," Nathaniel admitted. Margot raised an eyebrow but didn't comment further. "I'm taking Ella to her music class, then meeting with the foundation board for lunch. Will you join us?" "I'll try," Nathaniel said, though they both knew his attention would remain divided until the chess match concluded. After Margot left, Nathaniel opened his email to check if there had been any further communication from Isaiah. Finding none, he turned back to the tournament livestream, which had just begun to show the playing hall as spectators took their seats. In Washington, D.C., Isaiah entered the tournament hall, the vintage fountain pen tucked securely in his pocket like a talisman. His opponent for the championship was a poised girl from California, known for her creative attacking style. As they shook hands before the match, Isaiah felt an unusual calm descend upon him, not the absence of nervous energy, but a channeling of it into focused determination. The arbiter signaled for the match to begin, and Isaiah made his first move. Whatever happened in the next few hours would change his life, but win or lose, he was beginning to realize that the tournament was only one move in a much larger game. The championship match stretched into its 5th hour, a grueling test of endurance as much as chess acumen. Isaiah and his opponent had battled through a complex middle game, into an end game where the tiniest inaccuracy could prove decisive. Spectators who had initially crowded the observation area had thinned as the afternoon wore on, but the most dedicated remained, watching in hushed anticipation. In Los Angeles, Nathaniel had cancelled his lunch meeting. Unable to tear himself away from the live stream, he watched intently as Isaiah navigated the critical position. Impressed by the teenager's composure under immense pressure, Margot had returned from her foundation meeting to find him still at his desk, eyes fixed on the screen. "Has it ended?" she asked, curious about the event that had so captured her husband's attention. "Not yet," Nathaniel replied, gesturing toward the chair beside him. "It's reaching the critical stage." To his surprise, Margot sat down, genuinely interested. "Which one is Isaiah?" "There," Nathaniel pointed to the screen, playing the black pieces. They watched together as Isaiah made a decisive move, trading his bishop for 2 connected passed pawns, a strategic decision that would define the game's outcome. His opponent tensed visibly, recognizing the danger but seeing no clear way to neutralize it. "Is that good?" Margot asked. "It's brilliant," Nathaniel explained, his voice reflecting his growing admiration. "He's sacrificed material for positional advantage. Now his pawns have a clear path to promotion." 10 moves later, faced with inevitable defeat, Isaiah's opponent extended her hand in resignation. The tournament director approached, congratulating Isaiah as the new national junior chess champion. The modest crowd applauded, and college scouts could be seen making notes. In Los Angeles, Nathaniel let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "He won," he said simply, a smile spreading across his face. Margot studied him with curious eyes. "You really care about this, don't you?" "About him?" Nathaniel considered the question. "I think I see something of myself in him. The potential, the drive. But he has something I didn't have at his age, a perspective that extends beyond achievement. From one plane ride you gathered all that." Margot's tone held no skepticism, only gentle wonder. "Sometimes you just know," Nathaniel replied, surprised by his own certainty. In Washington, D.C., Isaiah stood on a small podium, accepting the championship trophy and scholarship certificate. Cameras flashed as he shook hands with tournament officials and sponsors. The moment felt surreal, the culmination of years of practice, of countless hours analyzing positions on his small magnetic board, of weekends spent at the community chess club while his friends were at movies or parties. His phone buzzed with a message from his mother. "We're screaming with joy here. Kayla's jumping on the couch. Call us!" Another notification appeared, a text from Nathaniel. "Congratulations, champion. Remarkable performance. My offer remains open whenever you're ready." As the post-tournament formalities concluded, Isaiah found himself at a crossroads. The victory secured his academic future. The full scholarship was enough for tuition at Columbia or several other top universities. But Nathaniel's offer presented a different kind of opportunity, practical experience, connections, and insights into the tech world that no classroom could provide. Back in his hotel room, during a video call with his mother and sister, Isaiah shared the news about Nathaniel's invitation. "Los Angeles?" Patricia's expression reflected both concern and curiosity. "That's a generous offer from someone you just met on a plane." "He's not just anyone, Mom. He's the CEO of Brooks Systems. His company developed half the apps on your phone." Patricia nodded thoughtfully. "I know who he is. I'm just surprised by his interest." "I helped with his baby," Isaiah explained. "We talked. He watched the tournament online." Kayla piped up, her face filling the screen. "Are you going to see Hollywood? Can you get me an autograph from someone famous?" Isaiah laughed. "I don't think CEOs hang out with movie stars, Kayla." "Actually," Patricia interjected, "I looked him up. He and his wife attend those fancy galas with celebrities all the time." Isaiah considered this information. The world Nathaniel inhabited was so far removed from his own reality in Brooklyn, yet something about their connection felt genuine, despite the vast differences in their circumstances. "What do you think I should do?" he asked his mother. Patricia's expression grew serious. "You've secured your scholarship. That was the goal. But this could be valuable experience. If you feel comfortable, if you trust your instincts about this man." "I do," Isaiah said, surprising himself with his certainty. Later that evening, after careful consideration, Isaiah composed a response to Nathaniel. "Thank you for your support and for watching the match. I'd like to accept your invitation to visit Brooks Systems. When would be convenient?" The reply came almost immediately. "Excellent news. I can arrange for you to fly to LA tomorrow afternoon if that works for you. My assistant will contact you with details." Within an hour, Isaiah received an email containing a first-class airline ticket, hotel reservation at the Beverly Wilshire, and a preliminary schedule for a 3-day visit to Brooks Systems headquarters. The comprehensive arrangements reflected both Nathaniel's efficiency and his genuine enthusiasm for Isaiah's acceptance. As Isaiah began packing his few belongings, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. The championship victory had already changed his life's trajectory. Now he was about to step into a world entirely unlike his own, a world of corporate power, wealth, and influence that he had only glimpsed through news articles and television. He carefully placed the fountain pen Nathaniel had sent him in his backpack's front pocket. Whatever awaited him in Los Angeles, he would face it with the same clear-headed focus he brought to the chessboard, analyzing options, anticipating challenges, and finding the path forward one move at a time. The following afternoon, as Isaiah boarded the first-class cabin of the flight to Los Angeles, he experienced none of the hesitation he'd felt when crossing the boundary between economy and first class on that fateful flight with Ella. Something had shifted in his understanding of himself and his place in the world. The dividing lines between different spaces and different lives suddenly seemed less absolute, more permeable. As the plane soared westward, Isaiah gazed out the window at the landscape below, thinking about how a single moment, a baby's cry, a teenager's decision to help, a CEO's moment of vulnerability, had set in. Motion events that none of them could have anticipated. Life, like chess, could change dramatically with a single move. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the Brooks Systems headquarters with golden light. Isaiah stood in the reception area, taking in the sleek modern architecture, the subtle displays of cutting-edge technology, and the quiet hum of innovation that seemed to permeate the space. "Isaiah," Nathaniel's voice rang out as he emerged from an elevator. "Welcome to Brooks Systems." The CEO looked different here, more commanding in his tailored suit, yet somehow more authentic than he had appeared on the plane. This was his natural environment, where his confidence reflected genuine expertise rather than social positioning. "Thank you for having me," Isaiah replied, shaking Nathaniel's extended hand. "The champion arrives." Nathaniel smiled warmly. "I've arranged for you to meet our development team this morning, followed by lunch, and then I thought you might be interested in seeing our AI research division." As Isaiah followed Nathaniel through the building, he was struck by how the CEO introduced him to everyone they encountered, not as a visitor or a student, but as the national chess champion and a brilliant young mind in computer science. The respect in these introductions was unmistakable, conferring a status that Isaiah hadn't expected. The development team welcomed him with genuine interest, showing him projects in various stages and soliciting his perspectives. Despite his initial nervousness, Isaiah found himself engaging confidently, asking insightful questions and offering observations that drew appreciative nods. "You have a natural aptitude for this," the lead developer commented during a demonstration of their latest application. "Have you considered our internship program?" By lunchtime, Isaiah had received not one, but 3 direct invitations to apply for Brooks Systems' prestigious internship, a CTCE program typically reserved for Ivy League computer science majors. Over a private lunch in Nathaniel's office, with panoramic views of Los Angeles spread before them, the CEO finally addressed the reason behind his unusual interest. "I imagine you've been wondering why I invited you here," Nathaniel began, setting aside his fork. "Why a chance encounter on a plane led to all this." Isaiah nodded, appreciating the directness. "I have, yes. When you helped with Ella," Nathaniel said, his voice softening at the memory, "you showed me something I've been missing, both as a father and, I'm beginning to realize, as a leader." "What's that?" Isaiah asked. "Presence," Nathaniel replied simply. "The ability to be fully in the moment, to respond to what's actually happening rather than being caught in your own expectations or anxieties. You have that naturally. I've spent years developing business acumen, strategic thinking, market insight, but I've neglected that fundamental skill." Isaiah considered this assessment. "My mom would say it comes from necessity. When you're responsible for someone else's well-being, you learn to pay attention differently." "Exactly," Nathaniel nodded. "That's why I wanted you to see Brooks Systems, to meet our people. This company has brought remarkable innovations to market, but I'm beginning to think we've lost something essential along the way, that human element that you demonstrated so effortlessly with Ella." As the afternoon progressed, Isaiah toured the AI research division, met with the Educational Foundation director, and even had a brief, pleasant encounter with Margot, who had stopped by with Ella to meet the chess champion who saved their flight. Seeing Ella again, now alert and curious about the world around her, brought a smile to Isaiah's face. The baby seemed to recognize him, reaching out with tiny hands when he approached. "She remembers you," Margot observed, her expression warm as she handed Ella to Isaiah. "She's normally quite shy with strangers." "We've met before," Isaiah said softly to Ella, who grabbed his finger with surprising strength. "You've grown since then." That evening, at dinner in the Brooks Bel Air home, Nathaniel made his proposal official. "Isaiah, we'd like to offer you a place in our summer internship program, with flexible dates to accommodate your academic schedule. Additionally, our foundation would like to supplement your chess scholarship with a STEM education grant. Not because you need it now, but because exceptional talent deserves exceptional support." Isaiah absorbed the offer, recognizing both its generosity and its careful construction to respect his independence. "That's incredible, thank you." "There's one more thing," Nathaniel added. "A personal request, separate from Brooks Systems." "What's that?" Isaiah asked. Nathaniel glanced at Margot, who nodded encouragingly. "We'd like you to teach me especially, how to be better parents to Ella. The techniques you showed me on the plane, yes, but more importantly, that quality of attention you bring, I want to learn that." The request surprised Isaiah, so different from the corporate opportunities or educational assistance he had anticipated. This was something more personal, more meaningful. "I'm not an expert," he said honestly. "I just shared what my mum taught me." "Sometimes the most valuable knowledge comes from the most ordinary sources," Nathaniel replied. I've spent my career surrounded by experts in every field. What I need now is something simpler and more profound. As the evening concluded, plans were made for Isaiah's summer internship, for follow-up meetings with the foundation, and for regular video calls with Nathaniel and Margot about Ella's development. What had begun as a chance encounter was evolving into a genuine connection that bridged vastly different worlds. On his final day in Los Angeles, before boarding his flight back to New York, Isaiah received a package at his hotel. Inside was a custom chess set of exceptional craftsmanship, with a note from Nathaniel, to remind you that sometimes the most powerful pieces on the board are not the obvious ones. The pawns, when moved with vision and courage, can transform the entire game. Thank you for transforming ours. Nathaniel, Margot, and Ella. As Isaiah's plane soared eastward, toward New York, he thought about the circles that life creates, how a moment of kindness offered without expectation had opened doors he never imagined passing through. He thought about Nathaniel, a man with everything society valued, learning from a teenager from Brooklyn about things money couldn't buy. He thought about his mother and sister waiting at home, their lives already changing through his achievements, but soon to be enriched by the new connections he was bringing back with him. The chess set rested carefully in his carry-on bag, a symbol not of what he had been given, but of what he had offered, and would continue to offer, to the world. Quiet competence, genuine presence, and the courage to cross boundaries that only existed in people's minds. Sometimes, the most important. Journeys begin with the simplest of actions, like a boy from economy class walking into first class to soothe a crying baby.